Hello, I'm Carolyn Rivers, founder and director of the Sophia Institute, and it is with great pleasure that we are dialoguing today with Dr. Ann Baring and Dr. Anneloes Smitsman for a preview of what we're planning on February 17 and 18, when we'll also have Dr. Jean Houston and Dr. Jude Currivan join us. This convocation celebrating Cultivating a Wisdom Society for Our World in Transformation. We're so happy to have Dr. Baring and Dr. Smitsman today as we begin a conversation that will preview the profound work we'll be doing together again on 17 and 18. These extraordinary women, visionaries and leaders and from around the world who are on the forefront of pioneering new understandings about human consciousness, our planetary evolution, and our cosmic unity. We will explore the new story about our profound relationship with a conscious, intelligent, interconnected universe sourced by cosmic love and sourcing us through to the soul of a cosmos and the wisdom of life. So Dr. Ann Baring is a researcher, a scholar, a Jungian analyst. She is also a cosmic poet and an award-winning author of a book that I cherish, The Dream of the Cosmos, A Quest for the Soul, and The Myth of the Goddess, co-authored with Jude Currivan, and An Agenda for a Conscious Humanity with Dr. Skilla Ellsworthy, and other wonderful books. And Dr. Anneloes Smitsman, a futurist, a system scientist, an award-winning pioneer in human development and systems change, an award-winning bestseller author and co-author with Dr. Jean Houston of the Future Humans trilogy, including The Quest of Rose and The Return of the Avatars. So many of you in our Sophia audience have been with us before when we've had Anneloes and Jean with us for several different programs. And it will be a pleasure now to introduce you for the first time to Ann Baring. So the two of you have done profound work through what I've just noted is your work. And I find that your approaches to that work is very different, yet you find this profoundly significant common ground that I just alluded to. This ground where we are having the opportunity in our lifetimes to advance human consciousness on the planet, and the necessary and essential task to do so. So I wonder if I can ask you to speak to your work briefly and then to let the dialogue spring out of that.
Shall I start?
Yes, lovely.
Yes.
Thank you.
Well, my work has grown out of messages that my mother received when I was in my teens and later, which said that there was a great catastrophe coming from the earth if we didn't change course. And they were wisdom teachings, really, from people like St. Francis. And they gave me a foundation for my life, which I wasn't able to come into until much, much later, because I had to grow up, get educated, travel, discover things, do all those sort of things. And then I had a great dream, which I won't go into now, a dream of a cosmic woman. And that gave me my task, which was to really rescue and restore the image of the divine feminine, first of all as a goddess, which we did in the Myth of the Goddess, and secondly, now really to realize that we've lost our connection to the earth and the cosmos and the soul, and all three need to be recovered urgently because time is running out. So that is my work, really, and I know it chimes in with Anneloes' work, which I greatly admire and love. And I love the thing in her first book, I think, where she meets an awful person in the forest and says, "This stops now." And that I say to myself every morning when I get up, this stops now, to whatever is happening in the world that's dreadful. So Anneloes, do tell us how your work fits in with all this.
That's so beautiful, and I love how that stays with you. Indeed, that section is from Rose, the main character. It's a young woman, mid-20s, who has to confront the archetype of domination in the forest. Indeed, and that's when she said, "This stops now. This stops now." It's this whole pattern of violence, the pattern of division, the pattern of disunity. She just says that with her whole being, her whole soul, as she puts her stick on the ground to really confirm that. And that's a lot of what my work is about.
Yeah.
It's on the one hand to have the strength and the courage to stop the patterns, stop the archetypes, also stop the systems that are harmful, they're never going to take us into the future, to recognize them for what they were, bless them for the lessons we learned, and then at the same time to say yes to what helps us thrive and helps us evolve, really coming from the ancient and the future wisdoms converging together here and now.
Yes, well, that's such a lovely work that what you're doing. It just, that image stuck with me because it was very powerful. But I know that the work is a dual work. First of all, to say no to the old pattern, to stop living it as it's taking place beneath our noses at this moment. And the second is to how to usher in this new vision of a totally different image of what humanity is and who we are. And that is my work at the moment. It's really to speak about our innate divinity, our immortality, the fact that we don't die when we die, that our consciousness survives, and the fact that we are part of both Earth and cosmos. We are the bridge between the two in a way. So that is what my work is about. It ties in terribly well with yours and Jean's,
Exactly.
and also Jude's as well.
Jude's too. That's it.
And all four of us are working towards the same vision, to implement it and to manifest it in whatever way we can, with energy, because the time is short and the world is in a right old mess and is likely to get worse before it gets better. So we really are working flat out. I'm very old now, but I may have another couple of years in me. I don't know, but Anneloes has got a lot more years, luckily.
Well, we wish you many, many more years, Anne, because your work is so profound and brilliant. And the work that I love, as I do also Anneloes and Jean's work. As I read Dreams of the Cosmos, and I'm going to hold this book up for our audience to see, you can see I read it with a great verve and joy. And because there's so much there, the exploration of the lunar period, the solar period, as it brings us forward now to the time that we're talking about right at this moment that we're living ourselves into. But that understanding of where we've been, which many of us did not grow up to understand.
No.
Most of our study of history was through Western society, but not the matriarchal period or the patriarchal period. When I began to find that myself, I became clear, deeply called actually, to create the Sophia Institute, our Center for Learning, where we could begin to do a deep dive ourselves into understanding the divine feminine. This book was not available to me then. You were busily writing it, Anne, as I understand. All those 20 years that you poured soul and heart and knowledge and study into it. So could you say a little bit about lunar and solar, and now I know that's hard to talk about briefly.
No, that's not hard at all. It's quite easy because it's quite clear in my mind. We started off with in the lunar era with the idea that the whole cosmos and everything that we saw and everything we experienced was born from the womb of the Great Mother. And that was carried on into the goddesses of the Bronze Age, like Isis of Egypt, who was with Hathor, the Great Mother again. The Milky Way was identified with the mother too. And souls came in and out of her being, as it were. They died and were reborn, just like the moon was died and was reborn. So it was lunar because it was based on the dying and rebirth of the moon, which was continual, and also the dying of the crops and the rebirth in spring. So they were in tune with the rhythm of nature and the rhythm of the cosmos, which was extraordinary to have had that wisdom at that time. They were not behind us at all in consciousness, but they had a participatory consciousness that we've lost for 4,000 or 5,000 years. And then we moved into the solar era, which was totally different, which was really about the emergence of what we call the conscious mind. It started with the rise in Sumer of the city-states and the gradual growth of them into empires, 7 great empires between Sargon of Akkad and the Roman Empire, or even the Holy Roman Empire later on. So it was a totally different mindset, and it was based on the domination of nature, starting with the beginning of how we controlled nature through agriculture, but then developing it to the idea much, much later and in our own time, but it's our right to dominate nature and take what we want from it, with no regard whatsoever to other species or the needs of other species. We were completely unconscious that we were part of the Earth's life. And that was carried through into materialist science, which has been a disaster in one sense, very good in others, but a disaster in the sense that it's cut us off from both nature and the cosmos. And it has such a diminished idea of what the cosmos is, that it's dead, insentient, unintelligent, etc. But it's given us an idea that we're the only conscious people in the universe, which is just a ludicrous idea. So there's that, and now we have to move into another phase, which the alchemists call the stellar, after the stars, the stellar phase, or we've had it, which I'm sure Anneloes would agree with. So I think that's a summary of the lunar, the solar, and the possibility of moving into this new era with a new kind of consciousness, which unifies Earth and cosmos and ourselves in the middle, so to speak, serving both, not dominating either, and manipulating life to the way that Yuval Harari has told us that we're just hackable animals that can do what we want. There's no such thing as God or the soul. This is a very dangerous ideology that's taken hold of our culture and may run with it, so to speak, if we don't look out. So we have to do something about it by bringing in an opposing or alternative view. And this is what I'm trying to do in my talks and as much as I can. So I'll hand over to Anneloes now, because I think I've said all that needs to be said about these eras.
Thank you, Anna. I just love your clarity always, you know, and what you're saying is so spot on, so important. Caroline, you wanted to add something as well before I share more?
No, go ahead, please.
Yes, indeed, this time of the convergence, this time of the integration, and we are, as a species level, if we're really looking at that, you know, the only way to solve the climate crisis, in my view, the biodiversity crisis, the sustainability crisis, really the meta crisis of our time, which isn't just about environment, but it's also a crisis in consciousness. Is to step into that integration that you just spoke of, and to truly understand who we are as life, who we are as consciousness, and how to co-create those next steps of our evolutionary development in partnership with our Earth, in partnership with the cosmos, in partnership with the universe. Really, there's an incredible support here if we're willing to listen, open our hearts, and come into a place of wisdom. And so you're also coming out of the industrialization age, coming into this age of information that our current, you know, modernization has often been referred to. But let's come into the age of wisdom, which is what we'll be dialoguing about, right? With Jean and Anne and Jude and myself and Caroline. Yeah, so to really come into the age of wisdom. And to understanding that wisdom, that foundational wisdom of life itself, it's always here. That's the beauty of wisdom. It's not something that you have to prove, or you don't have to do a test. And there's no judgment there. You can't lose it. It's not like when you make a mistake, oops, wisdom is gone. No, wisdom is our true nature when we mature as a species, and we mature as the beings who we are, then we discover that that is our essential nature. We are born from wisdom.
It's
wisdom
really
has always been there. Sorry, it's innate in the universe.
That's it.
And we are part of the universe, so it's innate in us.
Yes, and accessing it simply through the dreams of the night through our meditations or even our prayers. Invoking it is so important to us to understand that we can do. I feel we don't really teach that enough. And one of the things that we love teaching at Sophia Institute and our Center for Learning is just that, the processes, the practices that help us do so. And I love what you say in your own book about how you actually accessed what you write about, your dreams of the night. You alluded to the dream, the big dream that you had that awakened you to all of this. But I know as a Jungian analyst, you taught your clients and you yourself did a lot of work with your dreams of the night, and they were often guides for you. I remember when I was thinking of leaving my former career to found the Sophia Institute, I asked for dream guidance. And the question I asked as I went to bed that night, what is my true work in the world? Came back to me in a voice that said, my true work, your true work, is to lift the veil between the worlds. And I feel that in both of your books, you are yourselves lifting the veil between the worlds through the practices and the processes and the knowledge and the wisdom you bring forth. So maybe we should spend a few concluding minutes as we talk about that level of access and process and guidance. That's so the wisdom of the heart.
Absolutely. Well, this is something that we're not taught in our culture. Our children are not taught it. They aren't taught that they have it, nor how to develop it. And the whole right hemisphere of the brain is neglected and almost atrophied, with all the emphasis on the left hemisphere, the development of mind and intellect. And that's why we have this materialist science, because it's completely left hemispheric. So that is one thing radically that has to change. Secondly, our political systems are completely marred in the old patriarchal mode. I don't know what can be done about them, but I think collapse is on its way. But because owing to the COVID thing and the vaccinations, I think a vast amount of hidden stuff has come out in people's knowledge. And I don't think they'll put up with any more nonsense much longer. I think they're thoroughly fed up with their governments who go on arguing about everything and who are unable to cooperate with each other, like China, Russia, and America, incapable of working together to help the earth, intent on the old pattern of rivalry and power. So wisdom is there, but people need to know that they have it innately in them and how to listen to what Jung called the voice or the spirit of the depths, which is such a lovely expression, the spirit of the depths, how to create the stillness to do that, and then to follow it, like you have with that dream of yours telling you how to, you're going to remove the veil between the dimensions. So all of us have our work, as it were, becoming clearer and clearer. Even 20 years ago, even 10 years ago, it wasn't nearly as clear as it is now. And now it's crystal clear. And I'm sure it is for Anneloes, and I know it is for Jean and Jude, because Jude is unstoppable now. She's got the bit between her teeth, and she's off.
She couldn't join us today because she's in a remote location where she couldn't get internet. But yes,
yeah, I know. But she's in there, and also she's young enough still to have the energy, and so is Anneloes to bring this through. Whereas Jean and I are slightly on the moving out of everything, although Jean wouldn't, and I don't feel that, but nevertheless, we're 20 years older or more. So we have to do our best, really, in the time that's available. And I'm certainly, the message is clarifying. One, that we are immortal. Two, that we're divine. Three, that we've completely lost the plot and need to find one. And four, there isn't much time. So those are the four things that I'm getting out as much as I can with meetings with people. And it's delightful to be with you and to be able to be so frank and so funny at the same time, because it is funny in some way. You know, it's a ludicrous situation that we've got ourselves into.
Well, it is, and you're naming it so correctly, and it's good also to be able to laugh about it, because then the absurdity becomes all the clearer,
Yeah.
and rather than the fear of it. Anneloes, I know you want to speak to this, and you've got young children yourself, and I wonder, in the work you're doing about our future becoming, what you really see in process and practices. I know I've read your book, so I know there's a lot.
Yes. I will be sharing, when we through the event as well, some practices to help all of you, for all of you who are listening now, how to access that future human potential of our evolutionary next step. And that's an important distinction. That's understanding that the evolutionary next step of our species in potential is already here now. So it's not a future that is out there in linear time. This is a future in terms of a higher order possibility that is calling us right now to that depth awakening that Anne also spoke about, but it's also calling us into action. It's calling us to mature. And what I've been seeing in a lot of our work, and also with younger generations, is that there is a pattern emerging right now that is starting to cohere, where people really are saying, let's work together. This is what I've done and developed until this point. You've got another piece of the puzzle. What can we do together that nobody can do alone? And that is truly remarkable. I'm even in a day, and it's when in my work, if I look at the conversations that I'm having, I'll be on Zoom with tech developers on the one side to say, hey, how can we apply these evolutionary principles in whole new technologies? Next call will be with facilitators and coaches, next call with scientists, next call with cosmologists, people who are deeply immersed into wisdom. But all of those conversations and different perspectives are converging, they are coming together. It's like that, we are being called truly as these future humans of an emerging planetary civilization. And we are starting to recognize the call. And this is, and I think it's also referring to, it's becoming crystal clear all over the world. I am hearing people speak to that, saying, I can feel it. I start to understand my purpose for this time. And as we come together in community, it's like a resonance field opens up. That very resonance field then also starts to activate further that potential of our evolutionary next step. And really looking forward to these 2 days with all of you, where we are going to go through the journey of that.
Yes, indeed. We really are looking forward to this. All we wanted to do today was to give a preview of that. What we have done is to get it pretty specific with you about what to expect, and we're thrilled. You can see it's been a wonderful dialogue with Dr. Anne Baring and Dr. Anneloes Smitsman. Again, they'll be joined with Dr. Jean Houston and Dr. Jude Currivan. And there'll be more conversation about science and evidence-based science, and how science now, the science of cosmos and science of cosmology, are coming together in a way that we understand the organizing principle in our cosmology is the principle of love, and a cosmic love and light and wisdom that we can all learn to access. And in doing so, we can make a profound difference when it is, as we've been saying today, essential that as many of us as possible do so now. So on February 17 and 18, do join us for our very special event, Cultivating a Wisdom Society for Our World in Transformation. It will be an evocative conversation with experiential practices and processes that will awaken in you profound new understandings about your life, about our unique role in the planetary evolution of human consciousness, human society. Discover how you can lead from wisdom and love for this unprecedented time, and inspire others in your family and your workplace and your community to trust in life and our greater human capacities. A few things we'll focus on is how the universe enables choice so we can evolve and grow in consciousness, how to activate future potentials of higher orders of reality that awaken during profound world-changing periods. Some say we're in this 24,000 year evolutionary leap in consciousness, leading potentially to a time of new renaissance and planetary evolution. Consciously shifting the trajectories of your life toward your greater thrivability in partnership with life and with our planet. Learn about living a committed life, empowered by your soul's calling and sourced from cosmic love. And the evolutionary calling of this time, who we are called to become to shift from survivability to thrivability. Now, that's a tall order, and we're committed to addressing this with you on February 17 and 18.